and gentlemen. A hearty welcome to the second day of the two-day international webinar on COVID-19, impact on Indian economy and revival and sustainable water resources management in Asia. Organized by the Department of Economics, Andhra University, in association with the United Nations Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, Indian Economic Association, and RGUKT Srikakulam. I would now like to call upon my co-host Roshita to preside over the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Now I would like to introduce today's speaker, Professor Mahendra P. Lama Garu. Professor Mahendra P. Lama, a noted development economist, and he was the Pro Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. It is the world's largest educational institution in the arena of open and distance learning. Professor Lama was the founding Vice Chancellor of the newly established Central University of Sikkim in India, created by an Act of Parliament in 2007, and became the youngest Vice Chancellor of National University in India. Professor Lama was till very recently a member of the prestigious National Security Advisory Board of Government of India. He was Professor of South Asian Economics in the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and also the Chairman of the Center for South Central, Southeast Asian and Southwest Pacific Studies in JNU. He is presently nominated by the Government of India as a member of the Streeting Committee of the coveted South Asian Forum set up by the heads of the states and government in the 16th SAARC Committee in the Thimphu in 2010. But last, not the least, he has been nominated by the President of India in the highest executive board of the various leading institutions of India, including IGNOU, Northeast Hill University, NCRT, and Hyderabad University. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. And now I heartfully call upon Professor Jagdishraos Garu to proceed the further program and event. Thank you, sir.
नमस्कार लामा साहब, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपके साथ मिलने के लिए, बातचीत करने के लिए. पहले I welcome you all on behalf of this particular two-day event and welcoming Professor Lama, a noted and eminent economist, to deliver expert lecture on a topic called COVID-19 impact on South Asia and India's response. Sir, yesterday we conducted successfully two sessions. The first session was dedicated purely on COVID-related economics and retrieval, and then second session was purely dedicated only onto the sustainable water resource management. We have an academic linkage with the United Nations University, Japan. So these two sessions were successfully conducted. I thank all the participants for your active participation in this particular two-day event. This, in fact, was conducted in connection of superannuation of Professor M. Prasad Rao Garu. Regarding this particular today, COVID and all, you are all very well aware, this pandemic is not just confined to a particular country. It was spread to the entire world, and we are facing severe problems with regard to not only with regard to health, and we are also facing several economic crises. Now the floor is open. Now I am requesting Professor Lama to start his lecture, and equally I am welcoming all the participants to expose yourself to an eminent academician who rendered all his academic career in the field of economics. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir. Sir, please unmute your mic, sir. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Jagdishraos. A very good morning and namaskar to Professor Prasad Rao and all the very distinguished guests, faculty colleagues there in Andhra University, and very dear students. Uh, well, it's a great occasion to be present. Professor Prasad Rao is superannuating from a very, very distinguished service to the university and to the country and to the academics outside India. Professor Rao is widely, all of us know, he is widely respected as an academician and equally widely respected for his very, 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 very friendly, very, very warm personal traits. We can never forget Professor Rao and his team's hospitality whenever we go to Andhra University. Professor Rao's academic career has been absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure his students have been doing very well. But I tell you, Professor Rao, this is your first retirement. You have many more retirements to come in the rest of your life. You know, the High Commissioner of Bangladesh, when he was retiring as the High Commissioner about 6-7 years back, he gave us a small dinner, and when we said that, oh, you are retiring today, and what will you do from tomorrow? He said this was his third retirement, right? And he's joining another organization. So, and he left that organization also after completing his term. So he did his fourth retirement after what you call the formal retirement. So I'm sure, Professor Rao, given your rich background, very well-known academic contributions, you will have many more retirements to come in or superannuations to come in very near future. So all the best for your next venture. Give my regards, namaskar to your wife and the entire family members. And we wish you all the very best for your future ventures. And I'm sure we will have an opportunity to work together in many of them. So today, just to commemorate such a outstanding contributions of Professor Rao, I'm going to deliver uh, a brief lecture on COVID impact in South Asia and India's responses. This is very critical theme because as Professor Jagdishraos mentioned that the pandemic never respected any sovereignties. Pandemic never respected any borders and the communities and any kinds of caste, creed, language, religious, and any other barriers. So this was a kind of a this has been a kind of pandemic that has flattened all the discriminations. At the same time, affected a large number of people, right? Uh, mm, Affected a large number of people very, very adversely. Not only people, it has affected institutions, it has affected economies, it has affected organizations. So therefore, it is of very, very critical importance to discuss about why pandemic, how pandemic, and to what extent this pandemic is going to affect the entire South Asian countries, and being one of the newly emerging uh, power, economic power, India, how it has responded, and how what are the constraints for India to respond openly in the South Asian countries. That's what I'm going to speak. You see, if you see the pandemic, we have both developing countries in South Asia and the least developed countries, right, including Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, and Afghanistan. Bangladesh is now going to be in the bracket of developing countries. So, given a set of developing countries where Sri Lanka and India, to a certain extent, Pakistan have already reached much higher level, given one more entry of Bangladesh in developing countries list, and remaining four in the what you call it Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and Maldives remaining in the least developed countries list. The impact of pandemic has been absolutely varying in these countries. For example, if you say uh, India, the case recorded so far is almost 3.16 crore, and recovered pandemic victims would be about 3.07 crore, and almost more than 4.25 lakh people would have died. That is an official estimate. But if you go by estimates independently given by institutions, including from US, right, led by Mr. Subramaniam, the former chief economic advisor in the government of India, he says, their team says that the death of through pandemics in India would be around 50 lakh. That is that is almost that is 5 million, more than around 5 million in India. So there's a huge variations. You have seen reports in Hindu, in Telegraph, saying that the actual death in states like Haryana, in states like UP have been 10 times, 12 times, 18 times more than, or in Bengal, more than the officially recorded death. So you can imagine within India what kind of variations we have among the states, right? So if you go by the number of deaths, then or if you go by the number of cases, next to India it is Bangladesh, right? 12.3 lakh persons were affected by pandemic. But if you go by the number of deaths, besides India, the highest is in Pakistan, 23,200 plus. And if you go by the least number of people affected, it is Bhutan, or 2,506. That's all, right? In a population of nearly 7 lakh, 2,506. Today's data would say that have been affected. Only deaths recorded in Bhutan has been only 2, right? So it is absolutely varying degrees. In a country like Nepal, which had done very well in the first wave, the second wave came out to be pretty tough there, and almost 9,800 plus people died. In Sri Lanka, only 4,324, as relatively low, much lower as compared to Bangladesh, 20,255, right? So you can see, despite very thick population in Pakistan and in Bangladesh, right, the death rate, the fatality rate there has been much lower, and even the what you call it, the reported rates have been numbers have been pretty low. In case of Afghanistan, almost 1.5 lakh persons were affected, but the death would be 6615, which is a much lower number given what is happening in Afghanistan. Otherwise, also, right? Therefore, it gives us a very interesting picture about how these countries, how these countries have uh, been given a kind of a blow by pandemic, and how these countries have uh, managed this pandemic, and how these countries would be affected by these pandemics will be where this is what we are going to discuss today. If you go by the immediately the next question is, so what next? What is the third wave? Are we waiting for the third wave in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and all? And the third wave, to a large extent, and its impact to a large extent, would depend upon the vaccination rates, the what you call the vaccine rollouts. And if you see the latest data available today, Maldives has done extremely well with 93.6% rollout, and followed by Bhutan, more than 70-80%, right? And India would be hardly 24%, Sri Lanka would be 17%, and the Asian average for rollout, or developing Asia rollout, would be 39%, and I see Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka and India falling much below this particular rate, and including Pakistan. So in a way, you can say that we still have a huge, staggering number of people who will be vulnerable to pandemic if it at all happens as the third wave. You know, there were very interesting discussions I was watching between Brahmar Mukherjee, a very well-known pandemics statistician, and Karan Thapar in the Wire website, and absolutely brilliant expositions of what is happening within India, and what states, why certain states have higher rates and why certain states are lower rates, and why, who is going to prepare in what way. Very interesting analysis. So given all these, given a huge vulnerable set of people, including in the northeast part of India, which is fast spreading, right? And despite lockdowns, right, despite all kinds of restrictions, and despite all COVID related protocols, you have seen how pandemic has spread. So given this situation, what are the likely impact, or what has been the impact of what you call economic impact of pandemics in the South Asian countries? Well, to a large extent, it is uncertain, it is unstudied, and it is untold also. Because whatever forecasts IMF is making, World Bank is making, Asian Development Bank is making, or even our internal institutions like State Bank of India, Reserve Bank of India are making, they are taking a very macro picture of what you call the impact of pandemic. Whereas pandemics have started affecting deep inside the villages, deep inside the families and the communities, and the micro level perspectives of pandemics are yet to come to a kind of a, yet to come in a big way as far as information, data, statistics, and knowledge are concerned. Therefore, I would say the economic impact of pandemic to a large extent is uncertain, unstudied, and untold so far. But despite this, you can say that pandemic has affected largely all kinds of business, all kinds of sectors, all kinds of institutions. You can just take tourism as a kind of a sector. You know, we just did a the impact of lockdown on the economy of Sikkim. I work as chief economic advisor in the government of Sikkim. So our team was given the responsibility by the government to look into the real impact of pandemic in Sikkim. And the committee was known as Economic Revival Committee. And we submitted our report in August last year. That means we took into account just the first wave. And when we were looking into that, we compared a large number of people, stakeholders, including drivers, hoteliers, right, food merchants, agricultural, the farmers, the electricians, water supply, all kinds of people, the government officials, NGOs. Then we suddenly realized that in a place like Sikkim, that is likely to be true in case of Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, which are highly tourist dependent economies, to a certain extent even India, right? We suddenly realized that even a small hotel, once it is affected, how it has a cascading or in a backward or forward linkages in its impact. A hotel is related to electricity, water, food, milk, right? Drivers, cars, agencies, cooks, the hotel workers, all kinds of things are related. And all these are related right, all these go down to right at the bottom level. That means milk. A dairy farmer is affected. Flowers, a floriculture farmer is affected, right? Electricity, the entire state is affected because there is no use of electricity, right? So government revenues are affected. Then you have pharmaceuticals are affected. Then your beverages, including alcoholic beverages, are affected. Just see one hotel, right? That means what? That means every activity has a supply chain. Every activity has a kind of a value chain. And every activity is related to right at the grassroots. Right? The moment these activities are disconnected, delinked, everyone is going to be affected. So you can imagine situations in Bhutan, in Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal, which has remained under lockdown conditions for last many months now. They tried to open in between, but second wave came in such a kind of a revengeful manner that they again had to shut them down. So you can imagine the people displaced, the income lost, revenues lost, right? Employment lost. So you can see that. So if you say the growth rates of South Asian economies, you will find that they were expecting about 6 to 7% annual growth rate, say in 2021, and had a slightly higher growth rate in 2019, 2020. But most of these countries today, even Asian Development Bank, the latest documents say, even if it is what you call, even if it is a very optimistic projections, the projections are not going to be at all favorable. Many of these countries, at least in some quarters, may record negative growth rate and has already done that. You have seen that in a country like India, that a country like Nepal, right? And we do not know what kind of recoveries will be there. There is a kind of a strong debate going on. I would say it is an esoteric debate for us academics. How will the recovery happen? Someone say it will be V-shaped, right? Someone will say it is a U-shaped. It will go for some time and go up again. Sometimes it says V-shaped means it immediately hits the bottom and recovers as fast as and reaches the normal level. And someone says it is L-shaped. It may not recover for many, many years to come to the original level. So therefore, the debate at this time is esoteric, and though it is not an absurd debate, but uh, this debate is at the moment meaningless, precisely because we still do not know the vulnerability of these countries, as far as the level of vulnerability, as far as what you call it, the uh, pandemics are concerned. See, the besides the growth rate, one major impact on these countries is to come from the remittances by their workers from abroad. Uh, all the countries have large number of people working outside. So they were displaced there, right? And they would like to come back because they don't have employment. So it is going to have a two-way impact. One impact is remittances are going to come down drastically, right? And second impact is those able-bodied workers who have come back to particular countries will have a surplus, will act as a surplus manpower, as what Karl Marx said, reserve army. So this reserve army could bring some kind of distortions, some kind of dislocations, some kind of social chaos, because they don't have employment at the home front also. Even if they come back, their families are there. So if you say, how dependent are these countries on remittances? India earned almost $83 billion. India is the highest remittance receiving country in the world, followed by China and Philippines. And in case of India, you will find that our in the gross domestic product, contribution of remittances would be 2.8%, 3% or so, right? But in case of Nepal, if you see, the remittances would contribute almost 27 to 30% of its GDP. Pakistan almost 8%, Sri Lanka 8%, Bangladesh 6%. That means 6% of the GDP, 30% of Bangladesh, 30% of GDP of Nepal are going to be adversely affected. Right? What would happen? Impact affecting means the immediate next crisis is foreign exchange. Right? And foreign exchange has three-way pressures at this stage. First, your remittances have come down, so your foreign exchange stock has is vacillating now. Secondly, come what may, you will have to import, because you can't do without import. Like you have seen India, despite our strong efforts to decouple our economic relations or import from China, you will see India had to import in a big way from China, pharmaceuticals to many other items, despite consciously, because of the border dispute, saying that we will decouple increasingly from China. We banned so many apps, Chinese apps. We said that we will now go for Atma Nirbhar. We said we will go for Make in India. Despite all these, our dependence on China as far as import is concerned is going up. Right? Therefore, it is very difficult to cut down the imports. That means the moment you import means your foreign exchange will dwindle. So this is the second impact on foreign exchange. The third impact is on exports. The only way for you, other than remittances, is to earn foreign exchange would be exports. and your exports are affected because production is not happening. Your exports are affected because no one is willing to import. Your exports are affected precisely because lockdown has stopped all the transport and communications, right? So impact on foreign exchange is going to be absolutely what you call devastating. For a country like India, we have almost 490 plus billion as foreign exchange. Not a very, it's a very handsome degree of foreign exchange reserves. But for Bangladesh, it is hardly $32 billion. Bhutan, it is not even $1 billion. Nepal, it is hardly $9 billion. Pakistan is hardly $12 billion. Sri Lanka is hardly $7 billion. So what will they call? What will they do? This could amount to 1 year of exports, 6 months of exports. For India, yeah, sorry, 1 year of imports, 6 months of imports. So there is a tremendous pressure on what you call it, the foreign exchange situations. Now, under such a dreadful contractionary situation, what will you do? You devaluate your currency either, or you allow your currency to depreciate through market forces, right? If you devaluate, your exports become cheaper, imports become more expensive, but exports are not happening. Only imports will happen. If you allow depreciation in the market, you can't stop. You have to do that. You have seen what has happened. Without devaluation, Indian currency is today $1 would be about 71, 73 rupees. You have seen that. Without devaluation, it's the market forces which are actually depreciating the value of Indian currency. So what will you do? IMF says that they will need to stabilize their macroeconomies through new IMF programs, negotiate a delay in debt payments to bilateral and multilateral lenders, and higher taxes and better revenue administrations. These are a very general prescriptions. It says delay in debt payments. How will you delay in debt payments? You have a huge external debt with you, and if you delay it without the permission given by the under the same conditions by the lending countries or the institutions, your interest is going to be high. You are going to be much more in a difficult situation. So what will you do? Many people say resort to external borrowing, right? And external borrowing can be done. But you have already borrowed so much. For example, India's external debt stocks would be more than $415 billion. Pakistan's would be almost $78 billion. Bangladesh, $42 billion. Bhutan, also a small country, almost $3 billion. Nepal, $5 billion. Right? Sri Lanka, a small country, $42 billion. Your external debt. And you will be surprised if you say the debt stock export ratios, it is unsustainable. That means how much of exports would cover your debt servicing, right? Bhutan 313%. It means that means your debt service is 313%, which is highest, right? You will find 93% in case of India. Therefore, it is very difficult at this stage to go for external borrowing, right? But despite that, please remember, there is a new institution known as Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, set up by China, where India is Russia, and many other countries are very strong stakeholders. Despite our problems with China, right? Very serious problems with China. In the month of June, in the month of July last year, when the problems were in peak, we borrowed from AIIB for tackling our what you call it pandemics. Pakistan borrowed, Bangladesh borrowed, Sri Lanka borrowed, right, from AIIB. And you will be surprised to see that today India remains the highest borrower as far as the AIIB is concerned. Therefore, you can't delink, right? It is such a difficult, such an intriguing, and such a complex situation that a country like India cannot say that I am going to totally delink from AIIB, because this is dominated by China, initiated by China. So we don't want to, at the moment we have these issues, border disputes, we will say that the moment Chinese did something wrong which India had never expected, India could not delink it. Instead, it had to borrow, right? Because situation demands that only. You don't have funds. You don't have cash to immediately supply to various health-related issues, food-related issues, education-related issues, right? Therefore, it is very, very difficult to delink, and countries would increasingly borrow. Now, therefore, it is very, very difficult for South Asian countries today. You are pressurized from all kinds of sectors, subsectors, linkages, and connections. For example, but India did something commendable historically, and it really worked in the present scenario also. We have a currency pegging between India and Nepal. We have a currency pegging between India and Bhutan. That means Indian currency can be used freely in Nepal. In Bhutan also it can be freely. 100 Indian rupees would be fixed at 160 Nepali rupees, and 1 Indian rupee would be fixed as 1 gultrum in Bhutan. That is their national currency. Therefore, despite Bhutan not doing well, despite Nepal not doing well, because of the pegging of these currencies, the value of Nepalese rupee vis-a-vis dollar, right, varied exactly the way Indian rupees varied vis-a-vis dollar. If they were left alone, Nepali rupees vis-a-vis dollar would have hit the rock bottom, because the economy is so weak, so vulnerable. Bhutan would have been so. So Indian pegging of Indian currency with the Nepalese and Bhutanese currencies to a large extent protected these countries from other aspects of monetary management, right? And that's why Sri Lanka possibly would like to have this kind of pegging, because it is the huge Indian foreign exchange reserves that actually manages the value of what you call it Indian rupee vis-a-vis a dollar, and that is easily reflected in these countries. So now let me highlight one important aspect in this. One is, for the first time we realized that the sovereignty or national identity or national geography related borders become meaningless when pandemics come, right? You can't stop pandemics. Pakistan cannot stop pandemics in Amritsar and say that it cannot enter in Lahore. You have seen between even states like Andhra Pradesh, the Karnataka, right, and you have even seen a state like Tamil Nadu, right? They were not allowing buses from this particular state to come to other states. They were stopping patients to go from this state to another state. So within a country, right, uh, it started happening like that. So pandemics, while disregarding the the international borders, created borders at the household level, community level, district level, state level. Can you imagine this? In the household, if somebody is sick, there is a border. You can't come to this room. You can't go to that room. So it is a boundary within the household. Communities, if somebody is dead, you will not be able to do the funeral in this place. You have a border there between the states, between the districts. So therefore, this gives us a very, very good opportunity for all of us in South Asia about discussing the nature of border, the contents of the border, the utility of the border, border and identity, border and national sovereignty, border and military power, border and economic power. So this gives us a huge opportunity to really work on. And way back in 2016, we wrote a book known as titled as India China Rethinking Borders. It was published by Michigan University Press in US. And in that book, we had said that 3 years, 4 years before pandemic came into, right? We did mention that borders have to be redefined. It cannot be a geometric line. It has to be looked at from the larger perspective of borderland. And this particular pandemic showed that more than the borders, borderlands are important. That means how do you react to a situation, what is happening in Lahore, and tackle a situation in Amritsar, right? How do you link between two borderlands of Tripura and Bangladesh, or Assam and Bangladesh, or India and Bhutan, and India and Nepal? So it has opened up a huge area for academic inquiry and academic study. So what was the role of India then? India's role in the pandemic management of South Asian countries has been laudable but not consistent. Because we were the first countries, our Prime Minister was the first Prime Minister, possibly in a small group, right, to call a meeting of SAARC nations, and all the Prime Ministers joined and discussed coronavirus, right, and India promptly said that India would support all kinds of efforts, including through SAARC process. And we dispatched our foreign secretary. He went to Nepal, he went to Bangladesh, right? He went to many other countries, right? Then we started giving them all kinds of support, including test kits, protective equipment, right? Hospital equipments, all kinds of things. Besides that, we said we'll give the vaccines. So first set of vaccines to reach Nepal, to reach Bangladesh, to reach Bhutan and Myanmar were from India. And our foreign secretary took them all and gave them the vaccination. So that generated tremendous goodwill, right? Sometimes it was 6 lakh vaccines, right? And immediately these countries signed a kind of memorandum of understanding or kind of agreement with the Serum Institute of India for vaccines to the extent of almost 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, depending upon the size of the country. Unfortunately, our vaccine diplomacy started faltering. It is faltering. It started dithering. It became very, very, what you call it, weak, because of the pressure inside. You could see in the second wave what kind of pressure we could see and what kind of debate about vaccinations came within the country, and that is well understood. But the countries outside which were totally dependent on India as far as vaccines are concerned, they were taken aback. They were helpless what to do. For example, Bhutan did the first round of vaccinations to Indian Covishield, right, or Indian any other Indian vaccines. But in the second round, India was not supplying vaccines to them. So what will they do? There was a big debate in Bhutan what to do. So is mixology, is two vaccines could be mixed. If we bring from China, or if we bring from US or from other countries, can these two vaccines be mixed? I could see the Prime Minister of Bhutan, who himself is a doctor, mentioning about this. There is no danger in mixing two vaccines. He's had to say that. But ultimately, they got a huge number of vaccines, I think, from China, from US, and from many other European countries, and that they could manage, right? So this vaccine diplomacy, initially it was highly lauded, but because our own difficulties, it came out to be an inconsistent policy of India, right? And this is what happened. Second, India started saying to two neighboring countries, okay, we will give you some kind of relief in terms of currency swapping, right? So our Reserve Bank of India came forward. We started using SARC currency swapping facilities to give some kind of relief to Sri Lanka, despite the fact that Sri Lankan president asked for 1.1 billion currency swap facility to India. India could hardly give few hundred million dollars, right? Therefore, but this brought a kind of tremendous kind of confidence among the developing countries, among the South Asian countries. But, India's move in the neighboring countries were to a large extent thwarted by China. All of you know that China has a huge interest in the neighboring countries, geopolitical interest, Belt and Road initiatives, entry into the Indian Ocean, right? Fighting Indo-Pacific team, the Quad team, all kinds of. China has got all kinds of interests in South Asia. And you have seen how China has entered into South Asian countries consistently in the last 10 to 15 years, and it started consolidating its positions. China did two significant things in order to isolate India from South Asia. One, of course, it did was it again started engaging these countries in a big way as far as the Belt and Road initiatives are concerned. The second important thing, very dangerous thing or very harmful thing for India, it did was it made a China-led South Asian initiative for COVID-19 vaccines and poverty alleviations. And it invited all the foreign ministers of South Asian countries. The Maldivians were possibly absent. India was absent, and Bhutan was absent, but rest five were present. Today, the situation, it has opened a formal institute in Chongqing, right, in China, in the name of what you call it, Six Nation Grouping. It was launched in July 2021. And under this garb, China is giving what it would not have been able to give, or what other countries would not have accepted such kind of situation. So China is going all out to engage these countries in the COVID management diplomacy also, right? You'll be surprised. Bhutan was invited separately as a country by China in Kunming, in their Yunnan province, right? I think in the month of May, and given them all kinds of given them all kinds of what you call it assurances as far as COVID management facilities reliefs are concerned, including the vaccines. Therefore, today in South Asia, Indian diplomacy has to be absolutely of a different variety. Our traditional way, approach, and traditional instruments of diplomacy in the South Asian countries may not be as effective as it used to be 20 years back, 15 years back, because Chinese have come up with absolutely a different set of attractive set of and very effective set of instruments to engage the South Asian countries. Therefore, it is a situations where South Asian countries are now trying to balance how Nepal will balance between India and China. Bangladesh will balance India and China. So it is a very, very difficult balancing game for these smaller countries also. Last point I would like to say is that, you know, the these pandemics in South Asian countries, including in India, brought out a very, very pertinent aspect of our community living. That is at a very, very micro level interventions. Pandemic is no more in Delhi alone or Hyderabad alone. It has gone down to Guntur district's different villages. It has gone down to Tamil Nadu's Salem, and from Salem district it has moved down to what you Narikurabar colony there in the Atur subdivision, right? It has gone down to that level. So pandemic management is now a micro level management, right? And all of us in South Asia have done micro level management in the past, in terms of water, in terms of agricultural farming, in terms of environmental management. We all have come together at a very, very micro level, right? Say, for example, Pani Panchayats, say, for example, Aga Khan Rural Support Program, Small Development Farmers Program in Nepal, or in Nepal, Monge District Health Project in Bhutan, small, or even Grameen Bank project in Bangladesh, right? Or Jan Savaya program in Sri Lanka. So you have come down at a very, very micro level. All these you have done. So pandemic also demands micro level management of pandemic in future. So the challenges for India, for all other countries, is to how to go down to a very, very micro level, manage them, right? That means what? Responsibilities of sub-primary health center, primary health center are so very critical. So oxygen concentrator in concentrator in what you call it, Chennai would not work now. It has to go down to a village far, far from Chennai, right? So how will you do this? And in this context, what is very, very critical is to share the experimentations. And to share the experimentations, you need a regional forum like South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. Therefore, my last point is, if India does not work hard to revive SAARC process, if India does not consciously give a big push to the revival of SAARC process, which has been hanging fire, which has been literally dead for last 7 years, because the last SAARC summit was held in Kathmandu in 2014. And it is actually India's initiative that has actually brought some kind of deadlock in the SAARC process. So it is India who has to revive the SAARC process. If India does not really revive the SAARC process, I think we would be a major loser, because Chinese have already started creating a second parallel process, though informally, of SAARC, which is going to be absolutely harmful to our national interests. And therefore, the SAARC Center in Andhra University, which is headed by Professor Prasad Rao and many other colleagues, I think SAARC Center in Andhra University has to do a very handsome, very comprehensive paper about what is the cost of non-reviving or non-revitalizing SAARC. I think you have to write a paper, and that is going to be of tremendous value to the entire management of COVID in South Asia, both from the Indian perspective and the perspective of all the South Asian countries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, profound thanks to Professor Mahendra P. Lama Garu. As usual, it is a very enlightening presentation, sir, because you are a distinguished economist, not only in India, but also in South Asia. And you have conducted in-depth studies, and you have deep knowledge of Chinese intentions. Given your stints at the Chengdu University, given your exposure to Chinese economy, given your studies on the nuances of Chinese economy. And this lecture is extremely enlightening because it assessed the impact on South Asia and Indian response. How initially India responded enthusiastically, and how through vaccine diplomacy it tried to gain the impressions of South Asian countries, but how falterings took place. And one more fundamental point you mentioned was how this pandemic created borders not only internationally, nationally, but also community, within the community and within household. That's a very microscopic point to be learned. And of course, how China, which is trying to gain inroads into South Asia, seized this opportunity and was able to impress all these South Asian countries, though Maldives, Bhutan, and India abstained from attending the meeting it conducted. And you also reminded the responsibilities India should shoulder, India should endure to revive its sphere of influence in South Asia. So that is a reminder to the Indian nation to be alert on the future inroads of China, future programs of China. Highly enlightening, academically enlightening, sir. So it reminds us the responsibility of writing more papers and conducting in-depth research in this particular area, sir. So our SAARC Center is deeply indebted to you, sir. For the past 1 decade, we have been taking inputs from you, and also in future course of research, we would like to take more and more inputs from an enlightened economist like you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, on behalf of Department of Economics, on behalf of UGC Center for SAARC Studies, and finally on behalf of Andhra University and Professor M. Prasad Rao Garu, who is attaining superannuation today, sir. So, Professor Prasad Rao.
Good morning, sir. It's a wonderful morning, sir. You delivered.
Thank you very much.
You delivered extremely. It's a beautiful lecture today. We are really grateful to you, sir. On behalf of the Department of Economics, on behalf of the entire university, we really grateful to you, sir. Coming over here, setting aside all important works and delivering and touching upon important aspects on COVID-19, what's happening in the entire Asian countries in the region. We are really grateful to you, sir. Once again, we thank you profusely on behalf of Department of Economics, on behalf of Andhra University, on behalf of former Center for UGC Center for Short Studies. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rao.
Thank you.
All the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Baba, you
Now I invite, now it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Chandrasubba, former Dean in Examination, AU, and a distinguished administrator. Sir, please come on to the dais. Now I heartily welcome Professor P.V. Sharma Garu, former Dean, Faculty of Arts, Amber University, a man of knowledge and experience. Sir, please come on to the stage. Now I welcome legal luminary, P.A. Satyaprasad Garu, senior advocate and former petitioner advocate general. Sir, please come on to the stage. Now I take a great joy and I welcome the man of the moment, Angela and Sorry. Now I invite Professor Vijay Prakash Garu.
It is an honor to welcome my teacher. It is an honor to invite my teacher, Dr. Jagdishraos garu, former Vice Chancellor of the University. Academicians are expected. Please come on to the stage. You please invite us. I happily invite our Professor Jagdishraos garu, having the Department of Economics. The farmer is and the of military commission higher education. He is a member of higher education. I invite Professor Jagdishraos. Thank you very much. Now I invite Professor Jagdishraos, Board of Study Chairman, Department of Economics, onto the dais. Now I invite Professor Jagdishraos garu, Director, Rajiv Gandhi University, for knowledge, to comment after the speech on the dais. Who critical contributions that tells us the glorious history and origin of Andhra University. Sir, please honor us with your presence. Thank you, Monica. Now I hand over the mic to the President of the Council.
Morning, all. This is Jagdishraos retirement of a star, a hero of this day, of today. His retirement for a while, but retirement not for life. So, because he is an academician and intellectual, as I observed. So, I hope that he will continue his pursuit, his future career, because he will now begin a new career, because it is not the end of the career. He will find, I think, more freedom. He will better fight. That is the need to solve. Now, I invite the guest by the lighting the lamp by the chief guest and others. Right. Thank you. Now, presidential remarks, but I already said that anyway, I pay salutations to the dignitaries of the days and the distinguished guests. Now, book releasing ceremony. Book releasing ceremony. Book of Sa in English by Professor R. Sudarshan, former Vice Chancellor, Welcome University, Nellore. Now, it is another book on zero budget natural farming. Report by Professor Jagdishraos, former dean, faculty of arts, Karnataka. This by Sri Satyaprasad, senior academic and former traditional advocate. Please, India's role and foreign policy. This book is coalition politics for decades. Then foreign policy, particularly in terms of nations, neglected and addressing any critical event in South Asia and some the nation. 10 years of so therefore, India was paradigm shift in the foreign policy regarding South Asia because China was making inroads. We constructed a string of words around India and cornered India and unfolded several economic and political policies. It became an observer in some. So it was trying to extend its sphere of influence and dominate South Asia. So in that background, a paradigm shift was necessary for India to stand in a good state as far as South Asia is concerned. Otherwise, it was branch coalition politics. So this book was written as a policy input to the government of India, Ministry of External Affairs in particular, to mark a paradigm shift in policy in the backdrop of a new government taking over. And of course, we sent the contents of this book, the distilled form of these contents of external affairs to mark a paradigm shift. So this book reminds us of the responsibilities to keep China at bay. China was trying to extend its influence by giving line of credit to all South Asian countries, either credit or financial aid from time to time, and demanding membership within SAARC, wiping out India's. So this book reminds the policymakers of their responsibility to deal with a new framework of policy in the economy. On behalf of the Department of Economics, we extend a warm welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Reddy Garu. Welcome, you. Thank you. Well, brief on the books already just very brief present. So therefore, this book is to remind the policy makers that we need to depart from the coalition era and formulate a new policy in order to sustain India's influence in South Asia and to keep at bay the influence of China. So in terms of economy, in terms of policy, and also to how to use soft power to expand India's economy. That is what this book basically deals with. And the second book is on the landmark achievements of SARC, 30 years of journey. Well, common folks usually think that SARC is a coffee shop, it is meant only for casual discussions, nothing concrete has been achieved. But the fact of the matter is that a great deal has been achieved, though that is not conspicuous in nature. So, this second book, written by Professor Prasada, brings out the manifold achievements of SARC, 30 years of journey. It is quite encouraging. It's trying to bring light, brighter side of SARC rather than the darker side. So, there are certain encouraging milestones achieved by SARC, and that sustenance of SARC, the speed of the art, and there are many rail links, road links, and exchange of cultural exchange programs on higher education, whatnot. So the brighter side of SARC is always encouraging. So the common folks, and this is written in Telugu because as and when we conduct programs in SARC, most of the social sciences students fail to understand this SARC. So to enable them to gain an insight into the concept of SARC, that this book has written focusing on the brighter side of SARC. So that's all from these books. Thank you very much.
I'm very thankful for the presence of esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor D.V.G. Prasad. Now, Professor R. Sudarshan now, book is by Professor and Vice Chancellor Prasad will now
in fact, he showed the book before publication because we thought that this is the main book Prasad is writing for retirement and it will release it. Because it is in Telugu, that's why he has got it to me as if I know a little bit Telugu and asked me to go through it because there were six and language mistakes also. Somehow we made it to better it as far as possible, and I was very much thrilled to see that it's not a book written by him only, but he has collected such an information about Andhra University. Everything, sir. First, from the first shooter till now, vice chancellors, respected guests, dignitaries, Padma Bhushans, Padma Shris, who became the presidents and governors of other states, everything about the alma mater of the Andhra University, alumni. And then he wanted to publish it. I thought that it would be lead to a failure because he showed it to me only 8 days back. How can you publish such a big book in 8 days? So Prasad Rao's planning is not as good as academic planning, and that's why he will not be able to bring the book. He is just bringing a part book. But when we have seen it today, it is a nice one, completely included time. All of you, those who are interested, you have to keep this by hook or crook. You have to keep this book in your house because it is information of encyclopedic information about Andhra University, not written by him only. He has only collected it and saw that he can better present it to the future generations. So see that this book is with you for the future generations. We are not doing any service to Andhra University. We belong to Andhra University. But you are giving such an information about Andhra University with respect to the country, Andhra University with respect to the intelligence and intellectuals of Andhra Pradesh, Telugu land, and about education. Yes, at one stage he has given our people who are there well placed in the world, our Andhra University people who are well placed in the world. Or Andhra people who became the president, Sanjay Reddy, Radhakrishnan, and others. If such an information is there, so that I said that this book has to be in the house. You have to advise our children and others. Keep this book and not to loan it to anybody. If you have this book once, don't give it to anybody because you don't return. If they won't return it to you, if you give it to them, what they are going to. I don't think you will get the money back on this publication or anything, but this is such a valuable book written by Prasad Rao. Then Prasad Rao, Andhra Institute of JC and his social process, decade over decades. And then finally also he is doing such a big service to the university and colleagues and professors and alumni of Andhra University. Retirement also, and then I greeted him and his wife also, Chandrakala, our school English school teacher also, are very successfully together. And gives you a career of stuff. Thank you.
Was former member of the former rector of time for founder and enjoy, in fact, great rapport also. And happy that I'm being called please anthology as Andhra University or in Hong Kong. It's a good collection of material. Subara garu ఈ లెగసీని ఏదో రకంగా నెక్స్ట్ జనరేషన్ క్యారీ చేయాల్సిన బాధ్యత అందరి మీద ఉంది. కారణం ఏంటంటే ఈ బుక్ అందరికీ ఏమన్నా జనరేషన్ లో బుక్ పెద్ద చదివే మనుషులు చెప్పారు కాబట్టి పెన్ డ్రైవ్ లోనో లేదా ఒక ఫేస్బుక్ లోనో పెడితే అట్లీస్ట్ దాని సస్టైనెన్స్ సర్జన్గా ఒక పీడిఎఫ్ ఫామ్ లో కన్వర్ట్ చేసి వెబ్సైట్ లో ఒక లింక్ అండి great effort. The years of journey on the campus. And online, I as student and faculty, administrator, all the teachers' opinions are communicated right from the founding years of this heritage and culture. అది కూడా ఈ రోజున ఆయన సూపరాన్వేషన్ రిలీజ్ చేయడం అనేది కనుక సూపరాన్వేషన్ అంటే ఏంటంటే ఫార్మల్ వర్క్ షాప్ లాంటి వర్క్ షాప్ లో కంటెంట్ దాని ద్వారా రిటైర్ అయిపోవడం అనేది ఒక ఆచారంగా వస్తున్నటువంటి దానికి భిన్నంగా నన్ను పనిచేసినటువంటి ఒక యూనివర్సిటీ అది చుట్టుపక్కల ఉన్నటువంటి ఈ యూనివర్సిటీని అభివృద్ధి కోణంలో నెక్స్ట్ జనరేషన్స్ కూడా వాళ్ళు ఒక లీడర్స్ గా ముందుకెళ్లాల్సిన ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా మరి ఇటువంటి విశిష్ట సేవలు అందించినటువంటి ఉపాధ్యాయులు వారిని జనరేషన్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఒకరోజు ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీలో ఒకరోజు అని నేను చాలా ఖచ్చితంగా చెప్పారు రోజు ఈ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ యూనివర్సిటీలోనే ఈ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి ఏదో పని మీద అక్కడికి వెళ్ళాలి ఉండేటువంటి నిష్ణాతులైనటువంటి కలవాలి అని క్యాంపస్ లో ఆ రోజు ఉన్నటువంటి 7,000-8,000 మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉండేవారు. ఫ్యాకల్టీ కూడా ఇంచుమించుగా 700-800 ఉండేవారు. అందరూ కూడా ఆలోచించారు ఎందుకంటే ఇక్కడ అలాంటి నిష్ణాతులు ఉండేవారు. పర్సనల్ గా నాకు తెలుసు నేనే డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి చాలాసార్లు రైస్ మీద ఉన్నటువంటి చాలా అలాగే ప్రొఫెసర్ రామరెడ్డి గారు ఉండేవారు. ఐ ఆల్వేస్ టు బ్లెస్సింగ్స్ ఫ్రమ్ మీ చాలా గౌరవంగా యూనివర్సిటీలో ఉన్నటువంటి యంగ్స్టర్స్ ని కూడా ఎదగాలని ఆశయంతో అలాగే దశరథరామరావు గారు రాంబాబు టాటా వెంకటరెడ్డి నాకు చాలా గుడ్ ఫ్రెండ్ ఇద్దరు ఐఏఎస్ ఆఫీసర్స్ అంటే చాలా మంది లీడర్షిప్ లీడర్షిప్ the entire campus. And I also have a very good friend who always supports me. Even today also, whenever I'm under some issue, okay, I always get a call. But I'm there. Even today also I'm there. Department has got it. అది దీన్ని కంటిన్యూ చేయాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం. ఈ రోజున టెక్నాలజికల్ గా చాలా మార్పు. ఆ మార్పులకి అనుగుణంగా సోషల్ సైన్సెస్ లో డిపార్ట్మెంట్స్ చాలా ఫ్రాంక్లీ స్పీకింగ్ ఇవాళ ప్రతి పేరెంట్ ఏమన్నా మాట్లాడచ్చు. వాళ్ళ అబ్బాయి ఇంజనీరింగ్ చదువుతారు. రైస్ మీదకి వచ్చినప్పుడు చెప్పవచ్చు ఎకనామిక్స్ చదువుతా ఉంటున్నాను, పాలిటిక్స్. కానీ ఫ్రాంక్లీ స్పీకింగ్ ప్రిన్సిపల్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ మెడిసిన్ ఈ రెండు తప్ప ఇంకేం చదివింది వాళ్ళ దృష్టిలో రెండు తప్ప ఇంకేం తెలియచ్చు. ఇవాళ ఇంజనీరింగ్ వచ్చినప్పటికీ మళ్ళీ అదే ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా నాకు కనెక్టివిటీ ఉండడం కంప్యూటర్ సైన్స్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ సరిగ్గా మనం ఇవాళ చూస్తుంటే కొన్ని కాలేజీలో కంప్యూటర్ సైన్స్ 22 సెక్షన్లు 23 సెక్షన్లు యూజీసీ ఏమో 2 సెక్షన్లు ఏం చేస్తుంది కానీ 22 సెక్షన్స్. బట్ యు సీ దాంట్లో ఎనర్జీ అనేటువంటి it's not something related to computer science. People who are now talking about machine intelligence is not something exclusively related to computer science. Machine intelligence, data intelligence, there are these tools. Our tools mali again different ga deni ఉపయోగపడతాయి అంటే backup చూసినట్లయితే connected to economics, connected to social law. అంటే టెక్నాలజీ పరంగా అక్కడ డెవలప్ మళ్ళీ దాని అప్లికబిలిటీ అంటే ఈ డిపార్ట్మెంట్స్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి కరిక్యులం వాట్ ఎవర్ కరిక్యులం దట్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ది ఇంగ్లీష్ లా ఆఫ్ ఇంగ్లీష్ పిఆర్ అండ్ గురించి ఎన్నిసార్లు చెప్తాం అవన్నీ కూడా మేబీ అయితే ఒక సెమిస్టర్ లో ఒక సింగిల్ సబ్జెక్ట్ ఫామ్ లో కన్వర్ట్ చేసాం. ఈ రోజున స్టూడెంట్ మళ్ళీ కంప్యూటేషనల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అని అనుకుంటే ఆయన ఆ స్టేజ్ కలిపి మాట్లాడింది కదా అలాంటి మనుషులు మళ్ళీ అటువంటి మనుషులు ఫ్యాకల్టీ రూపంలో ఈ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ అందువల్ల ఆ దిశగా కరిక్యులం చేంజ్ 10% కాబట్టి అందరూ అదర్వైజ్ క్యాంపస్ లో ఇండస్ట్రీ అవైలబుల్ గా ఉండదు. ఎక్స్టెండ్ యువర్ సర్వీసెస్ బ్యాక్ టు ద క్యాంపస్ అండ్ గైడ్ ద నెక్స్ట్ జనరేషన్. రిప్లై చేయాలి మనం ఏం చేసినా. మనం చేయకపోతే కనుక చాలా కనుమరుగు అవ్వాలి అంటే 2 రకాలు ఉన్నాయి. ఒకటి ఏంటంటే మనకు వచ్చే ఇన్పుట్ కూడా క్వాలిటీ ఇన్పుట్ అట్రాక్ట్ చేయాలి. క్వాలిటీ ఇన్పుట్ అట్రాక్ట్ చేయాలి అంటే మనం ఇక్కడ క్వాలిటీ కంటెంట్ డెలివర్ చేస్తాం. ఫీలింగ్ ప్రజల్లో మనం కలిగించాం. మనం ఎన్ని మాటలు చెప్పినా ఈ రోజున చిన్న మాటలు గొప్ప టీచర్ అని మనం అనుకోవచ్చు. కానీ లోపల స్టూడెంట్ జాయిన్ అయినంటే వాడు బయట చెప్పేస్తున్నాం. డిపార్ట్మెంట్ లో 15 మంది టీచర్లు ఉంటే ఆ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ లో జాయిన్ అయిన ప్రతి స్టూడెంట్ ఎకడమిక్ గా స్ట్రాంగ్ గా ఉన్నా వీక్ గా ఉన్నా ఆ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఈస్ ద బెస్ట్. అతని చుట్టూ తిరుగుతున్నాం. సో మన స్టూడెంట్స్ ని పాజిటివ్ గా మోటివేట్ చేయాలి అంటే మనం పెద్దగా ఏం చేయలేదు. రైట్ సిలబస్ డిజైన్ చేయడం, రైట్ డెలివరీ మెకానిజం. టెక్నాలజీ పరంగా వస్తున్న డెలివరీ ఆఫ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్ కూడా కంప్లీట్ గా మార్చాలి. రోజున సెకండ్ స్టాండర్డ్ థర్డ్ స్టాండర్డ్ లో ఆన్లైన్ లో వాళ్ళు క్లాసెస్. సెకండ్ స్టాండర్డ్ సెకండ్ స్టాండర్డ్ అంటే వాళ్ళు ఏది అనుకుంటుంది ఇంకా వాళ్ళు స్కూల్ నుంచి వస్తున్నటువంటి ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్ టీచింగ్ లోని బాగా వాళ్ళు ఫాలో అవుతుంది. చాలా సార్లు ఇవ్వాలనుకుంటున్నాం ఎడ్యుకేషన్ లో రిఫార్మ్స్ తీసుకుంటే టెక్నాలజీ పరంగా మీరు ఒకసారి కంప్యూటర్ లో పెట్టిస్తే మన వాళ్ళు ఎవరు యాక్సెస్ చేయలేదు సార్ అని మా దగ్గరికి వచ్చి చెప్తే నాకు ఆశ్చర్యం వేస్తుంది. ఎందుకంటే సార్ అయితే చెప్పచ్చు వాళ్ళు మనవరాలు ఒకసారి సెల్ ఫోన్ ఇచ్చి చూడండి వస్తుంది 2 నిమిషాల తర్వాత మొత్తం ఆపరేషన్ మీరే చూస్తారు. కావాలంటే ఇంట్లో చూడండి ఏమైనా ఒక చిన్న మనవడు ఉంటే కనుక కొంతమంది పెద్దవాళ్ళు కనిపిస్తుంది. ఒకసారి మీ సెల్ ఫోన్ వాళ్ళకి ఇచ్చి ఇది ఎలా చేయాలని అడిగితే వాళ్ళకి ఎవరు నేర్పించక్కర్లా ఆటోమేటిక్ గా అన్ని ఆప్షన్స్. సేమ్ థింగ్ ఓకే ఇవాళ కరెంట్ జనరేషన్ స్టూడెంట్ అన్ని ఆప్షన్స్ కూడా వస్తాయి. నేను నేర్పించాల్సిన పని అంటే మనకు వచ్చే ఇన్పుట్ విలేజ్ నుంచి వచ్చేలా ట్రైబల్ సెగ్మెంట్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చినా సరే ఆ జనరేషన్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అలానే అంతే తప్ప ఒక సిటీలో ఉంటే వాడు ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అందరూ సమానంగా ప్లస్ జనరేషన్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అలాగే సేమ్ జనరల్ కాబట్టి వాళ్ళలో అయిపోతుంది కాబట్టి టెక్నాలజీ పరంగా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ దానికి కావాల్సినటువంటి అసిస్టెన్స్ ఇవ్వడానికి కంటెంట్ ఓల్డ్ కంటెంట్ ఒక సెమిస్టర్ 1 or 2 పెట్టండి అంటారు. కుదరదు అంటే సస్టైనెన్స్ కుదరదు. ఎకనామిక్స్ ని మళ్ళీ అగైన్ అట్రాక్ట్ చేయాలి. బెస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది బెస్ట్ స్టూడెంట్ ఎకనామిక్స్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ జాయిన్ చేయాలి అంటే కష్టం ఉన్నది. వాట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్పుట్ ఉన్నారు డ్రాయింగ్. వెరీ సారీ టు సే you are not able to attract the right input. When you don't attract the right input and okay, don't deliver the right content, what do? Except going and sitting in front of the main office and raising problems. Right? This is the culture nunchi in particular university, the DS university. No way inferior to any IIT or ISC. You are in this class. Now the entire administration will move to Visakhapatnam and everybody will look at Andhra University. The Andhra University is for a name. But for some reasons, taking long, corruption, again, back needs to our environment. Teachers, teachers, all the farmer, right? On Gujarat, once you take up this responsibility, and once you know, okay, you are just not people, and you are there always, transfer knowledge from one generation to another generation. We are still working for the time, feeling and working model of generation. Pandemic never can R value మళ్ళీ ఇంక్రీజ్ అవుతుంది. 1.38 నుంచి 0.78 అయిపోయింది. బట్ 15 days నుంచి 0.78 నుంచి 0.98 అయింది. ఇవాళ అది 1 దాటితే మళ్ళీ అగైన్ మే వస్తుంది అన్నారు. సో 0.98 నుంచి 1 రావడానికి పెద్దగా టైం లేదని అనిపిస్తుంది. సో సేమ్ టైం అంటే మంచి బుక్స్ రాస్తున్నటువంటి ప్రసాద్ ఈ టైప్ ఆఫ్ పాండమిక్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్స్ టెక్నాలజికల్ గా ఎంతో అడ్వాన్స్ అవుతున్నట్టు బుక్ రైటింగ్ అనేది ఒక హాబీగా అవుతాడు ఈ పర్మనెంట్ వెకేషన్. ఇప్పటి వరకు లైఫ్ ఈస్ డివైడెడ్ ఇంటూ సెమిస్టర్స్ అండ్ హాలిడేస్, బట్ నౌ నో మోర్ సెమిస్టర్స్, సార్ full vacation. So those who are otherwise have this attitude of going for writing. ఈ రైటింగ్ తో పాటు చాలా మంచి రైటింగ్స్ అంటే సోషల్ సైన్సెస్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఇంత టెక్నాలజీ గురించి మాట్లాడుతున్నటువంటి ఈ రోజు కూడా ఇంకా మూఢనమ్మకాల గురించి జనాలు మాట్లాడుతున్నారంటే ఆశ్చర్యం. తెలియదు 2 days బ్యాక్ పేపర్ లో కోయంబత్తూరులో కరుణాదేవి ఆలయం నిర్మించారు. ఆ కింద ఆ రైటర్ రాశాడు కరోనా దేవుడితో పాటు అక్కడ అదే టెంపుల్లో ప్లేగ్ దేవి ఉంటుంది. ప్లేగ్ దేవికి లాస్ట్ కంట్రోల్ చేశారట, పూజలు చేస్తారట. పోయి అంటే ఏదో ఇంతమందిని ట్రాన్స్ఫార్మ్ చేస్తానని మన చేతిలో కానీ అట్లీస్ట్ ఒక్కరిని మార్చారు. ఇంకా యోజన ఎవరో చెప్తారు. అసలు మోడర్న్ మెడిసిన్ అనేది ఏమాత్రం బిలీవ్ చేయదు. కరోనా మెయిన్ అని చెప్పేసి నేను రిలీజ్ చేశాను. మోడర్న్ మెడిసిన్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ ఈజ్ ఎ ఫెయిల్యూర్ అని ఒక ఆయన అంటే ఎవరు మాట్లాడాలి ఎక్సెప్ట్ ఇన్ మెడికల్ ఫ్రెటర్నిటీ బాగుపడి అకాడమిక్ పీపుల్ మనం ఇంటి ఓకే కాదు రైస్ అవర్ వాయిస్ ఏంటి మనకేమో తర్వాత సరే ఇంకే హాస్పిటల్కి ఎవరు పడితే వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. 1,00,000 మంది బిందుల మీద బిందులతో నీళ్ళు ఎంకరేజ్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. Same thing, I don't speak and make understand. Only programming గురించి మాట్లాడు. Whereas, people maybe I think going okay beyond the theory and out of box, think చేసే కెపాసిటీ ఆ రకమైనటువంటి వండర్ఫుల్ మెసేజెస్ చేసే బుక్స్ కూడా రాయాలి. నాట్ ఓన్లీ
నేషనల్ ఎగ్జామ్ కాంపిటేటివ్ ఎగ్జామ్ ఏం సిలబస్
Thank you, sir, for your enlightened speech. I hope that now, use proper case I like on this. What's the right? I request the audience keep up silence. My colleagues, and friends, that you first do it. I joined this department at 31st July of 1970. I joined. We joined department on 30th July 1970. 31st July. This date is a very important day. About Professor Prasad, I did not say more to you on my audit. He did his PhD in London, one of the best research departments. We are proud of him. After Professor Jagdishraos, I think he is the next PhD from other countries, especially from Thailand. I think it's the second PhD. First is Professor Jagdishraos, second is yours. The Prof Jagdishraos from PhD. Valuable work he did. About his work, I did not say no wrong things. What about the economics department? I would have to say, put in words. I'm very happy. Our Vice Chancellor has shown interest in the growth and development of this department. We are for it. If any invitation comes from this department, I am ready to come. So going to an established institution like the chapter, I have no objection to come and teach here the subjects, especially the mathematical economics, econometrics, and statistics, which are now, I think, not in proper shape. This is a bit strong. The department, this is the police. At any time, you can call me. If there is the ground floor, definitely I will do it. About the data science, you said the computer science, there is a separate degree in data science. Now I say two words about data science. This data science was first introduced in this department of economics. We were of it. Economics, along with statistical department, I took a number of studies, generated lot of data to get the data science subject. We as a scholar, I think for the state of Andhra Pradesh, we did a number of studies in data. Case in India, and from this side, the rest of the other hand, we developed a data source, and the agroeconomic center was sanctioned simply because of the studies, long studies, micro studies, surveys conducted by the farmers and people and business surveys. This is for analysis, interpretation of data, and also the basis. And again, Mr. Prof, who went from this economics department, the other source, we straight like anything. The National Council of Economics, the Reserve Bank, any number of students besides IAS and IPS services, large number of students, they still now in many organizations. Even World Bank, I think, is your class. Yeah. We used to receive students as service from other countries, for example. Commerce department kindly try to restore, and what are we as retired professors ready to do? With this, I remind. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now, Professor R. Sudarshan, former Vice Chancellor, Commerce University, will speak. Now, family members.
family members. Please call for the departments. The others for master. Fighting others, good friends, social media. Very, very happy to associate myself with master. These days, to see the strength of this large number of friends, students, these year, not really see the release function. We are due to on this occasion, join with other brothers for successfully completing more than 3.5 decades service in Andhra University. Hello, Professor Jagdishraos. Right from 1985, very intimately from 85, and I came to this department as a faculty from then onwards I've been observing him. Earlier also I observed him, and he was a student here. The things I have do are for the benefit of the students. The student leader, for a long time, he was known as the super leader. Nowadays, and for a more than half of that at the time, especially after he became a member, he confined to, but he is a leader. Because state of combined college of arts campus, very important position. For example, I will tell you, this, like our Honorable Vice President of India, Garu was president of arts college. So he has leadership qualities, applicable, very friendly. I think he never uses the pressure tactics for getting things done for just a prayer petition, something like that. Is to represent the matters. So as a student, he was like that. And as a faculty member, as a teacher, he endeared himself whatever subject he teaches. Mainly, assigned himself as and all long times and agriculture economics. And as a researcher, just now, Professor for his thesis. I think next to Jagdishraos is one person who got his degree, who obtained his degree from successfully. There are teachers who went there, but by putting a lot of hard work, he obtained his degree by a very known economist. The result is a testimony to his work and the interest in doing. I think I am doubtful, I don't know the recent development, but all that he learned not be transformed or designated to students. I don't know whether he really trained any students, but with all the knowledge he acquired in Sussex University. I don't know. But if not done, we should, how we should. So, because knowledge should be important. Next generation of students. And also, one observation I would like to make is, as totally committed to academic and research, the faculty member, he committed himself to he was ever after like going somewhere or getting some small benefits. Never, I could see him requesting for some kind of assignment, small assignment, doing for but hobbies, some do that for a reason. But he never wanted to himself, devote all his time, even sacrifice of his family, he used to spend all of his time for academics, for the development of the government. That attracted me actually. I used to observe him. All his integrity, very impeccable integrity and honesty, and all to carry. There's no doubt about it. I think it's no difference. And the other thing I would like to, just now I started points, now I am asked to speak, what is that I can speak? So what is his contribution? His contribution as head of the department. Just now, certainly greatly proud that this is a department where a highly developed traditions were maintained. This department used to give policy suggestions to the university to be implemented in every college of the university, different colleges. And policy decision making used to be taken in this place. Like, I don't want to name anybody. One name is Urte, and it is difficult to understand. So, policy used to be decided in this department. And in this department, we used to produce number of IAS officers. IAS officers. So, at any time, say some 30 years back, 15 years back, in AP Secretary Combined State of Andhra Pradesh, there used to be at least 2 dozens of IAS officers, secretaries in different capacities in the secretary. That is the and old students of this particular department. And recently, there are a number of people, I don't want to name, chief secretaries, like what is his name, he came, almost half a dozen chief ministers, different capacities. So this department is for RS. It should not be last one. That's what the stakeholders of the department to take ahead of the mandate and by senior faculty. See, nobody is inevitable. I don't believe in that concept that somebody is there and all that. Nobody is inevitable. And manage to go forward. So, not that, I like to say that Prasad Rao, I observed all the 3 years. Prasad Rao is one person who made the department dynamic. The dynamism was maintained. And for that, I congratulate him. I used to congratulate him, appreciate him a couple of times. Because whenever there is an issue, social issue, economic, of general nature, he used to reflect as a department. That is very, very important. The department was known for that kind of social interface, economic interface. So that is his contribution as other things, again, administration and also. And he held different positions like director of SARC. I also had to do and he succeeded me. So he has his own contribution to cooperation and association. And he headed the population studies. And also he was director or coordinator of research. All these additional positions can have us. He made significant contribution because there are such things we cannot ignore. On an occasion like this superannuation of a person, because that is a satisfaction of it. Not accumulation of wealth or accumulating wealth or anything, money or anything, and don't be about it. These are the good words we have to tell about. As director of study circle, made significant contribution and he encouraged young people. He molded them who became very good officers, state officers and central officers. So that is one important contribution I would like to share with you. And regarding other things, I think that about. But not at all. Very hard worker. Today, also, his presentation, before his presentation, he reportedly so he has a habit of doing hard work, and that hard work, sincerity, exceptional, dedication to the profession, of economics, and to the students or else, I think that will give him a lot of satisfaction, definitely, automatically. It will help you to achieve further goals of aspects, future also, in future also. But one thing I would like to tell you, when you are real putting a robot, Mariana putting a moment, and at the moment one day, suppose you know whatever you are whatever time 529. But for the organization of institution or and so you are a gesture our research function there. I will personally. So Mariana and a polite guy accept as that. Then they busy government whatever again I know he did not maintain such a time. I am presently very pressure to understand so sometimes I used to tell him to prioritize whatever it is. So our issue, I think I have to say one word about every success of a man, there is a woman. And the success is carbon, I got a so I put a family members to agree with the she's a very good dietitian. This is what yoga teacher. Also, a good game discipline. Evening definitely 9 9:30 he has to complete his evening walk. Walk I think don't give up unless he completes his walk. So Chandrakal garu, time management food habits, then the approaches, in that way she was responsible and Sabha I appreciate చేస్తున్నాను నిజంగా. So, friends, on this happy occasion, actually, నేను విజయప్రకాష్ గారు ప్రామిస్ రీచ్ చేసి వెళ్ళిపోదాం అని అనుకున్నాను. ఒకసారి రీచ్ చేసి వెళ్ళిపోదాం. Let us not, because we are senior citizens, for others here, not get into a gathering. We have been doing that. We have been maintaining that protocol. So, రీచ్ చేసి వెళ్ళిపోదాం అనుకున్నాం. కానీ ప్రసారం ఇచ్చుకోవడం ఉంది ఎక్కడో మనసులో ఉంది. కాబట్టి without taking much time, ప్రసారం మాకు నాకే కాదు, any colleague, all colleagues will have experiences, long experience. నాకు ఎందుకంటే బాగా ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చెప్తాను. రెండు విషయాలు చేస్తాను. వెరీ అడ్వెంచరస్ జర్నీ ఫ్రమ్ ముజఫర్పూర్ టు ఏమండి చెప్పండి కాట్మండు. ముజఫర్పూర్ టు కాట్మండు. నేను రామచంద్ర గారు ముగ్గురు వెళ్ళాం. కాట్మండు చూద్దాం, నేపాల్ చూద్దాం వెళ్ళాం. అది చాలా అడ్వెంచరస్, చాలా జరిగాయి అందులో. స్టాండర్డ్ ఫర్ 14 hours లంచ్ టైం ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ అనమాట. అంటే ఈ రోజు సాయంత్రం చేరాల్సింది, నెక్స్ట్ డే మార్నింగ్ చేరాల్సింది, సాయంత్రం చేయడం అలా అలా జరిగింది అనమాట. ఇంటరాక్షన్ వెరీ వెరీ 1 minute నోబెల్ ఆడియన్స్ చూసారు కదా. సో ఇండియన్ నోబెల్ ఆడియన్స్ తర్వాత గురించి కూడా ఉంటుంది. ఏది వస్తుందని చెప్పరు, వచ్చారు సార్. టెనాసిటీ మెయింటైన్స్ టెనాసిటీ, హార్మోన్స్ టెనాసిటీ. మేము ఆయన కొత్తగా వచ్చారు, ఉంటారు, దానికి ఏం కండిషన్స్ ఉంటాయి. కొత్తగా చూసి కాంప్రమైజ్ అవ్వడం ఎక్కడ అవన్నీ చూసి చేస్తారంటే బ్యాక్లాగ్ వచ్చేసి there are some problems because the paper has to go through some 5-6 people. So they gave an agreement. So our evening room akkade untundi, guest house kuda akkade have these requirements. So atanu paper teddam modalu pettaru. Hey kaso chusi portunnanu I morning. See, I was surprised. Previously, I was doing paper valuation. The room, you have to complete them. Actually, to be frank, I don't know how to prepare coffee also. But the advantage, there is a kettle and the coffee packets are there. The advantage, I prepared coffee first time I prepared coffee and serving to a person. So, coffee is so, there are some of the experiences that able to interact. The most important thing I would like to share with you that the important main thing is item is very income, very accommodating. Never harsh words, I never heard any harsh word against anybody. The very likable person, something you have to say certain things like that, category. But to tell certain things are a day of superannuation. Superannuation is not there is no retirement period to professionals. Like, what is retirement age for a doctor? What is the retirement age for a lawyer? Satyaprasad Yadav is a former additional director general, government of, High Court, AP High Court. And what is the retirement age to a lawyer? There is no retirement to a chartered accountant. So, like that, there is no retirement or a professor also, if they are really fields, that is my way. And regarding age, forget about age. Not remember our age. See, recently, you also might have known it. Recently, I heard one YouTube that supposed speech a small interest says that see, because the changes in the genealogy nowadays, the middle age starts at the age of 70. That is his condition. That is his own after his mistake. And he says that the average life expectancy, like at the upper age is 130 years. People are going to live for up to 130 years. That's what it is. So we should not mind so much about our age. So these few things, I think I've taken more time because he told me that there are only one or two speakers. So I pray the Almighty God give him all, so give him and the family all health, prosperity, long life, everything the best to him and the family. Thank you very much for giving me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, thank you, sir.
Now, Professor P. Vijay former Registrar of Online and Vice Chairman of former Vice Chairman of AppSheet. Now,
good afternoon to all of you.
Sir, is a great anthropologist also. Thank you.
I am an intruder, however, the state of this often function. A good friends and with tools on the layers. And the Tripura Madam, very distinguished member of the Sadra family. I know many such experience in the past of time. I would like to, in fact, I told them not to include in the speakers also inclusion. But anyway, there are experts and the upcoming generation of the department. I would like to point out two things. One is the Vice Chancellor had warning occurred that there should be a quality and there should be updating. Minus quality and updating. These are the two buzzwords of 21st century. Minus these two things, we perish. You want to survive and continue, and you want to be an important person in the society, you should have the quality. Where from quality comes, it will not come from the void. It comes only through perseverance. Continuous effort. And such type of things, I think they are very must. And such type of characters are very integral of Prasad. His perseverance and his continued effort brought that voluminous book. I think I should like to have that one. And he compiled the entire data that is related to the Andhra University ever since its establishment in the 26th April 1926, I suppose. From that day onwards to the 21st day before his retirement, because he has given 8 days back to Chandra, my good friend. To Chandu means, I think everything. The last week's information must have also been incorporated into that book that would become an encyclopedia of Andhra University. I think everybody should own it. And as Prasad Rao said, Prasad Reddy said, I think the computer science department people must come forward convert it into a PDF format and keep it as an appendage to the website of Andhra University so that people can access it because the voluminous book may not be read by the people, but the important points can be picked up as and when they are required. The second point is Prasad Reddy Garu has raised Ammavar temple has been constructed, COVID Ammavar. But being an anthropologist, I should react to it in spite of the science and technology. And what doctors say, the COVID pandemic is such that you do not have a medicine. But the only medicine that you have within you is your mental faculty. Your mental faculty shall be satisfied. You should be brave enough that it will not come to me. It will not come to me. And yet, our grandfathers, our great grandparents might be knowing what Amavaru means. Amavaru Kunindi. Amavaru Kunindi and Ever Kunindi. Tell me, what had Kunindi? Amavaru Kunindi, Ever Kunindi. Ever Kunindi? Masuchi. Amavaru Kunindi kada. Sports వచ్చే చాలా మందితో మన ఓల్డ్ జనరేషన్ వాడుకుంటే స్పోర్ట్స్ చూడండి చూసారు అమ్మవారు కదా అండ్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది డైటీస్ దేర్ ఆర్ 1001 డైటీస్ each one deity is seated on one health condition and one harmful condition and unless you please her and the society will not be at safe position. That's what the culture says. The culture is a part, the education is a part of culture. But the culture is embodiment of everything. That means Ammavar Kunindi అంటే అమ్మవారికి ఏం చేస్తామంటే జాతరలు చేస్తారు. ఎందుకు చేస్తున్నారు జాతరలు? జాతరలు ఎందుకు చేస్తున్నారు? మన అంకాపురంలో జాతర చేస్తున్నాం, విజయనగరంలో జాతర చేస్తున్నాం. ఎందుకు జాతరలు చేస్తున్నాం? In order to safeguard the entire community away, driving away the evils. And what are the evils? They are related not only to the other things, but they are related to disease also. సో అమ్మవారి టెంపుల్ అక్కడ కట్టారు అంటే దాని అర్థం ఏంటంటే అమ్మవారిని పూజించడానికి కాదు, అమ్మవారు రాకోకుండా, అమ్మవారు మనల్ని కూడకుండా పశువుచి స్ఫోటకం అలాంటివి డిసీజ్ ఇలాంటివి రాకోకుండా చేయడానికి చేసేవారు. సైన్స్ ఒక పక్కన ఒక సిస్టమ్. మరి కోవిడ్కి ఎంత అంటున్నారు కదా డాక్టర్స్, నేను ఆయన పేషెంట్, డాక్టర్స్ ఏం చెప్పారు సార్ మందులో ఏమీ లేదు, మీరు ధైర్యంగా ఉంటే మీకు రాదు, ధైర్యం లేకపోతే వస్తుంది. ఆ ధైర్యం ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తుంది? So these are the some things that you should think on your own whether they are part of it or not. But the science is different, and one should go hand in hand, and one should be complementary to one another. Otherwise, you will become a robot. I am sure that we are not robots. We are loaded with a lot of humility and a lot of emotions. The emotions are such that we are the only people having the endocranial gland systems where we are able to weep, we are able to laugh, we are able to feel, and most of the sensory systems that we are embodied with will make us humane. That humaneness shall continue into the future and into the posterity. And if you believe totally the science and technology, you are nothing but a machine. And machines are not necessary a human body. Thank you very much for having given me an opportunity. Before I leave, I bless Chandrakala and M. Prasad Rao and his two sons in a better and a bright future. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Prasad.
All of you, please stay back. Meeting will continue. Please wait for another 15 minutes.
ఇంప్లిమెంట్ అయిపోయింది డిగ్రీ మొదలవుతుంది. ఈరోజు యేసురత్నం గారు మా నాన్నగారు బాగా సన్నిహితంగా ఉండేవారు. వాళ్ళు టీచర్స్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ నాయకులుగా ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళ ఫాదరు మా ఇంటికి అబ్బాయిని తీసుకున్నారు. మావాడు ఇప్పుడే సర్వర్ కాలేజీలో జాయిన్ చేశాను. మీరు కూడా సర్వర్ కాలేజీలో జాయిన్ అయ్యారు. మీ ఇద్దరికి పరిచయం చేద్దాం అని చెప్పి మా ఇద్దరిని పరిచయం చేసి ఆ రోజు మొదలైంది. ఫాదర్స్ ఒక కలవడానికి, స్నేహితులు కలవడానికి కానీ, ఈవెన్ నా విషయంలో కూడా మా ఫాదర్ నేను డిగ్రీలో చేరినప్పుడు కానీ, ఇంటర్మీడియట్లో చేరినప్పుడు కానీ మనం మంచిగా పరిచయం చేసి మా వాడు చదువు మొదలు పెట్టాడు. మీతో అసోసియేటెడ్గా ఉంటాడు. ఎప్పుడైనా ఆనవాయితీగా ఉంటాయి. ఆ రకంగా ప్రసాదంలో నేను ఎస్ఆర్ఆర్ కాలేజీ విజయవాడలో కలిసి మా జర్నీ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాను. మీరు చూస్తున్న ప్రసాదరావు ఈ రోజు ఇక్కడ కనబడుతున్న సున్నితమైన ప్రసాదరావు కాదు అసలు. ఆయన ఒక స్టూడెంట్ నాయక్. నేను ఆయన ఇద్దరు కలిసి స్టూడెంట్స్ ఫెడరేషన్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా ఎస్ఎఫ్ఐలో కలిసి పనిచేసి వ్యక్తిగతంగా మిత్రులుగా ఉన్నాం. ఆర్గనైజేషన్ లో కూడా మేము పనిచేస్తాం. ఆ రోజున మాకున్న పరిస్థితుల్లో మేము ఫెలోషిప్గా ఉన్నాం. ప్రసాదరావు అదే కాలేజీలో ప్రెసిడెంట్ గా కంటెస్ట్ చేయడం, ఆయన తరఫున నేను స్పోర్ట్స్ మ్యాన్ స్పీచ్ ఇవ్వడం నా పేరు. ఆ రకంగా 3 సంవత్సరాలు నేను రాఘవేపాలెం దగ్గర నుంచి సైకిల్ తీసుకుంటే మా ఇంటి దగ్గర నుంచి రోజు లబ్బిపేట ఉంటాం. లబ్బిపేట వాడు అక్కగారు ఉండేవాడు. అక్కడి నుంచి ఆయన కలుపుకోవడం, ఇద్దరం కలిసి ఎస్ఆర్ఆర్ కాలేజీకి వెళ్తాం. రోజు సైకిల్ 3 సంవత్సరాలు నడిచింది. 3 ఏళ్ళు ప్రతిరోజు మా ఇద్దరికి ఇదే కార్యక్రమం. కాలేజీకి వెళ్ళడానికి కలిసి ఉండవడం, కాలేజీకి మనం వెనక్కి వచ్చినా కూడా అలాగే మళ్ళీ ఆయన ఇంటికి వెళ్తాం. ఆయన అక్కడ ఆయన సైకిల్ ఆయన చేయడం, నేను నా సైకిల్ నేను వచ్చాను. మా ఇద్దరం అంత ప్రాణశుద్ధులుగా మా జీవితం గడిచింది. అయితే డిగ్రీ కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత నేను లా కోర్సు ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఇచ్చి నేను నాగార్జున యూనివర్సిటీ వెళ్ళను. ఆయన ఇక్కడికి ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీకి రావడం. అయినా సెలవులు వస్తే మీ ఇంటర్ కలుసుకుంటాను. నేను ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీ లేదా ఆయన నాగార్జున. సో మా మైండ్ కరెక్ట్గా ఈ మెచ్యూరిటీ లెవెల్స్ రావడానికి కారణం ఆ రోజు మేము స్టూడెంట్స్ దగ్గర పనిచేయడం, లేదా మేము నిరంతరం అధ్యయనం చేయడం ఇవన్నీ మాకు గిఫ్ట్గా తయారైంది. ఆయన ఇక్కడ ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీలో కంప్లీట్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆయన మ్యారేజ్ అమ్మాయి చంద్రకళ ఆ కూతురికి, ఆ కూతురు ఆమె చేతిలోనే అక్షరం నేర్చు. ఆ రకంగా ఆ కుటుంబంతో వాళ్ళ బాధ ప్రసాదరావు బాధ నుంచి మొదలైంది. తర్వాత ఆ మ్యారేజ్ తో ఇంకా బలపడింది. చంద్రకళ ప్రసాదరావు అది కూడా ఆ మ్యారేజ్ అయిన యూనివర్సిటీలో PhDకి వీళ్ళిద్దరూ యూనివర్సిటీకి ఫ్యామిలీతో వెళ్ళిపోయాడు. ఆయన అయినట్టు తర్వాత శ్రీమతి వెళ్తారు. అక్కడ ఇద్దరు పిల్లలు అక్కడే పెట్టారు. వాడు కోరుకుంటే ప్రసాదరావు కోరుకుంటే లండన్లో సెటిల్ అయ్యేవాడు. ప్రసాదరావు పిల్లలు లండన్ సిటిజన్స్ బర్త్ అయ్యారు. కానీ వాటన్నింటినీ వదులుకున్నారు. మరొక చేసే పని ఉంది. లండన్లో అవకాశాల నుంచి తీసుకుని వచ్చేవాడు. దీనికి అక్కడే ఉండేవాళ్ళు, అక్కడే సెట్ అయ్యారు. ప్రపంచంలో మంచి ఎకనమిస్ట్ గుర్తుండేదేమో ఆ ఆశ. యూనివర్సిటీ నుంచి బయటికి రాగానే ఇదంతా అయిపోయిన తర్వాత PhD అయిన తర్వాత మన ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో ఈ కంటిన్యూయింగ్ స్టడీస్ రిక్వెస్ట్ నువ్వు ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీలోనే ఎన్నుకున్నాను వాళ్ళని PhD ఉంది అవకాశం చూస్ ANU ఆ ఢిల్లీ యూనివర్సిటీ ఆర్ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ రిప్యూటెడ్ యూనివర్సిటీకి వెళ్ళొచ్చు కదా, మీకు అవకాశాలు బాగుంటాయి కదా అంటే నేను ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీలోనే ఉన్నాను. Continue to listen here, continue to pursue all this. పుస్తకాలు రాయడం కానీ అవన్నీ కూడా రెగ్యులర్గా చేస్తున్నాడు. కానీ మనకు ఈ రోజు నాకు ఒక బాధ ఏంటంటే ఒక మనిషి అవకాశాన్ని ఎన్నో అవకాశాలు ఉంటే 2 అవకాశాలు వదులుతుంది. ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో ఎందుకున్నాడని నేను ఆలోచిస్తే మొన్న ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో రుణాన్ని ఈరోజు ఆయన బుక్ రాశాడు, తయారు చేశాడు ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీ రుణం తీసుకోండి. ఇది మన చరిత్ర, ఇది ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీ చరిత్ర అని ఫ్యూచర్ జనరేషన్స్ కి తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నాను. ఐఎమ్ సో ప్రౌడ్ అన్నట్టు ఫ్రెండ్ నాకు ఐఎమ్ సో ప్రౌడ్ అని చాలా సందర్భాలు మేమిద్దరూ మాట్లాడుకొని వారం అంటూ ఉండదు, ఎప్పుడు ఖాళీగా ఉంటే ఫోన్ చేస్తాం. Therefore, what you are going to learn from dedication. నమ్ముకున్న దానికి, నమ్ముకున్న ఆశయానికి డెడికేట్ చేసి జీవితం అయిపోయింది. కొన్ని సందర్భాల్లో నాకు తెలుసు, కొన్ని సందర్భాల్లో కుటుంబం అనేది ఫస్ట్ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ కాదు. ఆయన పని నిన్న మొన్న నేను ఫోన్ చేస్తూ ఉంటే ఆయన అర్ధరాత్రి అక్కడ ఈరోజు క్యాంపస్ కూడా ఉన్నాడు, 2 గంటలకి క్యాంపస్ కూడా ఉన్నాడు, 3 గంటలకి క్యాంపస్ కూడా ఉన్నాడు, ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాడు. ఏంటి వాళ్ళు పడుకున్నావా లేదా అంటే ఆన్సర్ లేదు. ఒక్క మనిషి వాటి చేతిగా ఇవన్నీ చేశారు. కానీ ఐ హ్యావ్ గ్రీవెన్స్ ఆన్ దిస్ సిస్టమ్. ఈ సిస్టమ్ లేదా ఈ విద్యా ప్రాంగణం లేదా ఈ రాష్ట్రం ఒక ఉన్నటువంటి సరైన అవకాశాలు ఇవ్వలేదు. ఆయన నిజంగా ఎవరైనా మన సుదర్శన్ రావు గారు చెప్పారు, సుదర్శన్ రావు గారు నాకు చాలా సార్ ప్రసాద్ ద్వారా ఈ సిస్టంలో ఆయనకున్న ఆ ససెక్స్ యూనివర్సిటీ PhD కానివ్వండి, ఆయనకున్నటువంటి మెథడ్స్ కానివ్వండి ఇంకా బాగా ఉపయోగిస్తున్నారు. ఆయన ఎవరైనా పడలేదు, నాకు ఇది కావాలని అడగడు, నా పిల్లలు తను చేసుకుంటాడు, తన సమస్యలు తనే పడతాడు. కానీ దురదృష్టం ఏంటంటే ఈ సిస్టమ్ ఆయన్ని ఉపయోగించుకోలేదు, వైద్యశాస్త్రం నాకు కావాలనుకోవాలి, వాటిని కూడా పద్ధతిగా వచ్చినాయి. ఒక బెస్ట్ రావాలి ఫ్రమ్ ది స్టేట్ ఆఫ్ ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్. ఇది బాగా బాధాకరం. ఇప్పటికైనా ఈ సిస్టమ్ ఆయన ఉపయోగించుకుంటుందని ఆశిస్తున్నాను. లేదా ఆయన వచ్చే నష్టం ఏమి, సిస్టమ్ నష్టం. ఆయన అనుభవం ఉపయోగించుకోకపోతే ఈ విద్యా విధానం ఈ సిస్టమ్స్ కోరుకో. నేను మాత్రం ఏం కోరుకోవాలి, ఆయన జరిగింది అన్ని లాభాలు. క్యారెక్టర్ ఆయన నుంచి నేర్చుకున్నాను. ఖచ్చితంగా నిలబడటం అనేది ఆయన జరిగింది నేర్చుకున్నాను. నాకంత కష్టాల్లో నేను పెరగలేదు, కానీ వాడు అన్ని కష్టాల్లో పెరిగాడు, అన్ని సమస్యలలో పెరిగాడు. జీవితంలో చాలా కష్టం నాకంత, నా జీవితం అంతా నెలైపోయాడు. బట్ క్యారెక్టర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ టు మీ. So I hope that his retirement is not a retirement for him. James ప్రసాదరావు చంద్రకళ మేము చూస్తాం, అదే రంగం పనిచేస్తాడు, అదే రంగం ఉపయోగపడతాడు, ఎవరికి నో అని చెప్పడం. డిపార్ట్మెంట్ లో ఆయన డిపార్ట్మెంట్ అంటే ఆంధ్ర యూనివర్సిటీలో ఆయన ద్వారా సహాయం చాలా ఉంది. అది మనీ పరంగా నేను చెప్పట్లేదు, కానీ ఏదైనా సరే నాకు ఇది కావాలి అని అంటే ఆయన చేస్తాను. So I hope that system will utilize these services వెరీ వెల్. అండ్ జస్ట్ నేను ఒక ఆనందపూర్వకంగా మంచి నేను జీవితంలో అనుభవించాను, నేర్చుకున్నాను. అది జీవితాంతం మా స్నేహితులు అలాగే కంటిన్యూ అవుతుందని భావిస్తూ
రెండు నిమిషాలు ఆయన
ప్రొఫెసర్ ప్రసాదరావు గారు రిటైర్మెంట్తో పాటు చాలా పుస్తకాలు కూడా విడుదల చేయడం చాలా గొప్ప విషయం. ఇక్కడ నేను చెప్పింది ఏంటంటే ఆయన కేవలం ఒక విశాఖపట్నానికి పరిమితం కాలేదు, గిరిజన ప్రాంతాల్లో కూడా గత 30 సంవత్సరాలు జన విజ్ఞాన వేదిక అలాగే ద్వారా ఎన్నో కార్యక్రమాలు నిర్వహించాం. ఈరోజు జీరో బడ్జెట్ నేచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని కూడా రావడానికి ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ ప్రభుత్వం జీరో బడ్జెట్ నేచురల్ ఫార్మింగ్ ఈ కార్యక్రమాన్ని గత 15 సంవత్సరాల నుండి నిర్వహిస్తున్న ఒక బయో విలేజెస్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ని తీసుకురావడంలో ప్రొఫెసర్ ప్రసాదరావు గారు ఒక పరిచయం చేశారు, ఐక్యరాజ్య సమితికి పరిచయం చేశారు. మన ఒక విజయనగరంలో 93 బయోగ్రామాన్ని డిక్లేర్ చేయడం లేక ప్రొఫెసర్ ప్రసాదరావు గారికి వస్తుంది. అలాగే మరొక విషయం అందరికీ ప్రసాదరావు గారు మా జట్టు ట్రస్ట్కి మేనేజింగ్ ట్రస్టీగా 3 నెలల క్రితం మీ అందరం కూడా మా విజయనగరంలో జట్టు ట్రస్ట్కి మేనేజింగ్ ట్రస్టీగా ఎన్నుకోవడం జరిగింది. ఆయన మేనేజింగ్ ట్రస్టీగా అయిన తర్వాత ఫౌండేషన్ వాళ్ళు నిన్ననే మెసేజ్ మీకు చూస్తుంటారు. నిన్నే వాళ్ళొక 3 కోట్ల రూపాయలు ఒక ప్రాజెక్ట్ కూడా శాంక్షన్ చేశారు జట్టు ట్రస్ట్. గిరిజన ప్రాంతాల్లో ఈ కార్యక్రమాలు అమలు చేయడానికి విశాఖపట్నంలో ఎస్ఎఫ్ఐ ద్వారా స్టూడెంట్ లీడర్ గానే కాకుండా గిరిజన ప్రాంతంలో గిరిజన చైతన్యం కోసం ఆయన చేస్తున్న కృషి కూడా కేంద్ర దృష్టిలో తీసుకురావడానికి చేశాను. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. ఆయన సేవలు ఇప్పుడే కాకుండా మా గిరిజన ప్రాంతాల్లో ఇంకే విస్తృతంగా రిటైర్మెంట్ ఒక అవకాశంగా మేము భావిస్తూ ఈ అవకాశాన్ని కూడా నమస్కారం తెలియజేస్తున్నాం.
ప్రొఫెసర్ జగదీశ్వరరావు గారు డైరెక్టర్ రాజీవ్ గాంధీ ఐటీ శ్రీకాకుళం.
The way that he married certain people, the way that he presents certain people to the higher authority without any impact, without any fear, he was still responsible. The authority of honor, the higher authority, whether those honor fear, but where I have seen him as a leader, Now only I know that he was a leader from degree to master university. Now only I came to know that he was an active person to the Andhra and beautiful words about all. He was a leader, administrator, technician, researcher. All is very nice. మాట చెప్పాలంటే ఇప్పుడు నాకు రెండు విషయాలు అంటే ఎలాంటి మొత్తం చెప్పాలని తెలియదు కానీ బదులుకి పళ్ళు చెప్పచ్చారంటే ఖర్చు బాగానే కాదు అలాంటి వరకు నాకు పరిచయం నాకు అలా పరిచయం వచ్చింది ఫస్ట్ I got an opportunity to work in Dhaka as a engineering college representative. And then subsequently, I was invited in for department for and then at our time, I used to spend a couple of days with him, and then I shared all the progress and he was such a nice actor, and then all people who mentioned about his personified characters all. And recently, we got an opportunity to work in a particular technique. He was chosen team to be part in the particular program, and he did it wonderfully. And myself and then we two were the instrumental in international webinar in the last year October, and then recently the present webinar also we were the instrumental. And ఆ కంపెనీ ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడిన ఆయన రిటైర్ అయ్యారు అంతే అంటే ఒక దేశంలో బాగానే జీవితంలో రిటైర్ అవుతారని నేను అనుకోవట్లేదు సో ఈయన కూడా రిటైర్ అవుతారని నేను అనుకోవట్లేదు మంచి లీడర్షిప్ సమాజానికి అవసరం సేవలు కూడా అవసరం వారు కూడా ఇన్నింగ్స్ అంటే స్టూడెంట్ గా ఒక ఇన్నింగ్స్ ఫ్యాకల్టీ గా ఒక ఇన్నింగ్స్ రెండు మూడు ఇప్పుడు రిటైర్ అయిన తర్వాత యాజ్ ఏ వెల్ విషయంగా ఉండాలని వారికి భగవంతుడు ఆయురాలకి ఐశ్వర్యాలు ప్రసాదించాలని
Professor Prasad sister, take a few minutes.
I should remember the parents, but their parents ఎంత అందరితో ఫ్యామిలీ మెంబర్స్ సపోర్ట్ మంచి సపోర్ట్ నేను చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి కూడా ప్రతి చైల్డ్ వెరీ కంఫర్ట్ సిస్టర్స్ we are very proud we say being sister like that Telangana and she is very disciplined that I can say because of that family development పిల్లలు అట్లా చదువు disciplined person And that is and ఎవరికైనా హాస్పిటల్ వస్తుందంటే కెరియర్గా వస్తారు. కెరియర్ గురించి మనం మా అమ్మమ్మ ఒక హాస్పిటల్ జాయిన్ అయితే ఎలా చేస్తాడు బాగా చేస్తాడు. ఎవరి ప్రతి వాడు కూడా ఫ్రెండ్స్ కానివ్వండి అంతా లైక్ చేస్తారు. అట్లాగే హార్డ్ వర్క్ ఎక్కడికో వెళ్ళిపోవడం అయితే సిటీ బస్సులో ఆ రోజుల్లో సిటీ బస్సులు ఆడపిల్ల నేర్పిస్తున్నారు. అందరూ వెళ్ళిపోయి వాటిని పట్టుకొని తల్లి ఆ తర్వాత తెలిసేవి ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఆ తర్వాత తెలిసే ఇంకా అపరాధ వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తున్నాడు అని నాకు దర్శనం జగతం కూడా అంతే దర్శనం పడిపోయింది. ఇంకా చేశారు సరే. అట్లాగే కూడా డైరెక్ట్ గా ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా చాలా మంది తెలుసు. అట్లా వాళ్ళ గురువు నుంచి తను ఏం చేశారు వాళ్ళ గురువు సపోర్ట్ యూనివర్సిటీ అంత జ్ఞానం సంపాదించారు. అలాంటి తమ్ముళ్ళు చాలా అదృష్టం. ఫ్యామిలీ మెంబర్స్ పేరెంట్స్ ని చేసుకోవాలి. ఫస్ట్ ఫస్ట్ పేపర్కి వచ్చింది. పేపర్కి వచ్చినప్పుడు ఫాదరు అందరితో సర్పంచ్ గారితో పెద్దలతో అందరితో పంచుకొని ఎంత ఆనందం పొందారు. అలాగే వాళ్ళు హ్యాపీగా ఉన్నారు. గట్టిగా అసలు ఇంట్లో కూర్చొని అసలు చూడలేదు. ఉండడం సార్ ఇంట్లో కూర్చోలేడు. ఒక లక్ష ఖాళీ కొట్టలేదు. మాకంటే రిటైర్మెంట్ తర్వాత పనిచేయడానికి ఏమి ఉండదు. యూనివర్సిటీ ఒక అడ్వాంటేజ్. అట్లాగే అంతా పని లేకపోయినా పని అనిపించుకొని హ్యాపీ ఫస్ట్ ఆయన రిటైర్ అయిపోయారు. మరి ఏమి ఉండదు. అపాయింట్మెంట్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఆ రిటైర్మెంట్ రిటైర్మెంట్ హ్యాపీగా హెల్త్ చూసుకోవడం అందరినీ చూసుకోవడం అందరూ కూడా సపోర్ట్ ఇచ్చిన ప్రొఫెసర్స్ కి గురువులకి సపోర్ట్ చేసిన స్టూడెంట్స్ కూడా ఎంతో అడ్వాన్స్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
Presentation to Prasad and Janagar. Now, illustration to Professor.
Sir.